right. Welcome, everybody, to today's research check, where we're going to talk about the core rulebook that's been out for 6 months or something.
And
we're going back in time. It's okay.
Why did we let the guys be like, hey, let's leave the biggest book to them?
We got conned.
I don't know. They probably were like, they know it better than us.
We do know it. We're the most expertest of the Find the Path people.
We make Rick look good.
That's true.
Right.
As women often do for the men in their lives.
Yeah.
All right. So essentially, just like always, if you have questions, throw them in the chat. We collected some questions before we started, so we'll kind of sprinkle those in. And we'll do that. We'll do that from now on. I guess we'll introduce ourselves in case people don't know who we are. I'm Jessica Peters.
I am Rachel Sandage.
And I am Heather Allen.
And we are awesome. No, I don't know.
Yep.
We are.
We're awesome. So, yeah. Let's talk about this gigantic, 500 million page?
Yeah, that sounds about right.
638 pages, I think, technically. It's very hefty. You could beat a robber down with it if they came into your home.
Yeah, because isn't it? It's longer than the original core rule book.
Oh, yeah.
By a good margin, I believe.
I mean, I haven't looked at the page count of the first edition one in 6 years, but I think it is. But yeah, so essentially, we're going to kind of hop through some chapters, do some high level thoughts, what we think, what we like, answer some of the questions we've previously gathered. And I guess we'll start where many books start, in the introduction.
Oh, we're not going to start with the appendix?
I mean, we could. It's long. It uses a nice font size, It's readable.
Nice font size. That's where we want to go with that.
Yeah.
Yes, let's critique the, there's a word. What is that word? It's not typography. There's some weird word that's about the coronation, whatever. I don't know.
I don't even. I know it. It's there, but I don't know where.
For serif fonts, the little flat parts on the letters or whatever. There's a name for that.
Sans versus.
I think corning is also a word. Whatever. Why are we talking about this?
I sidetracked everyone like I always do.
So introduction.
Yes.
So
this is mostly organization, right? Ooh.
Yeah.
Table of contents.
Ooh.
This is why we don't get left alone.
I was going to say, one of our lit professors in college actually told us it's the introduction should be the most important part of whatever you write, because most people are never going to read past it.
That's pretty on point. And this introduction does literally include what is this game? How do you make a character? How you play this game? What are these weird words you're using? If you read just the introduction, you could probably...
You could buy.
Oh. It even has, is it page 20 something? Page 22 has all of the ancestries and all of the classes, so you could kind of do it.
I mean...
You could wing it.
Yeah.
Maybe if you had some background in D&D or something, or 1E, maybe you could
it tells you about the dice.
Dice are very important.
I mean, it did take a while for me to figure out, what D4 meant. When I first started playing and people would say that, I'd be like, D4, what?
The D4. Yes, it's true.
Now, granted, that was a long time ago, guys. I know what it is now.
If you didn't know what it was now, I think we would be in the wrong business.
Oh, gosh. Yeah. I should never be allowed to do this if that was the case.
It's true. Well, I'm going to talk about the table of contents because I remember the playtest book was organized really weirdly. I think I gave a lot of feedback about the organization of the playtest book.
I actually think the final product is actually organized fairly well. I think it's much easier to navigate than first edition.
Oh, yeah.
Rulebook was. I think things are laid out in a much smoother way. There's still a few things that I would have changed, but...
Yeah, there's one thing that I would have changed. I would have put crafting and treasure next to equipment and skills, or I would have taken all of the magic items with prices next to them and put them in equipment.
Yeah.
Because I still, to this day, if I'm looking at this physical book trying to find my magical stuff and things, like my talismans or whatever, I want to look at equipment. And then I'm like, wait, it's
Yeah.
in treasure.
Yeah, they've always kept the magic stuff separated from the base stuff. They've done that in all the books.
Mhm.
I just
guess-
wish those two chapters then were next to each other
Each other.
rather than separated by however
A
many.
ton of stuff.
I like
No.
the whole thing, basically.
But like the whole thing.
yeah.
yeah. I will say though, as far as just moving from like 1E to 2E, I like the addition of the side column
Oh yes,
because they didn't have that in 1E, and I love that because sometimes when you're just flipping through and I'm like, oh crap, what section am I in? And I know that's a little thing, but I do love that, and they did that in the Starfinder rulebook too, and I loved that.
It's like they pulled it from, what was it, the strategy guide or something in first edition?
Yeah, I think so.
Mm.
It is nice. I mean, the layouts are great. I think that they've done a better job at making it less like reading a foreign language and more like reading a guidebook.
It's
Yeah.
very accessible, I think, for
Mhm.
new people.
I was glad they brought back the tables though, because that was one of my things when I was making characters in the beta test. And I liked having, like, here's your character, here are your saves, here's everything. And so they added back some of the tables. They're different tables, but I'm very visual. And so that really helps me with the character creation.
Yeah,
process.
the step-by-step process of building
Yeah.
a character is amazing. Like,
Yeah.
I don't think that was as clear in the playtest. So to have 4 or 5 pages or whatever it is of this is what you do, it makes
Yeah.
it a whole lot easier to make characters.
Well,
It's still going
and-
to take me a bit before I can do it in my sleep like I could for 1E characters, but
Yeah.
that breakdown is real nice.
Well, and I really like the symbols that they've used. Like,
Yeah.
I think that having a symbology it makes it a lot easier to figure out, A, like, what can I do in my turn?
Yeah.
But B, you don't have to kind of read through the text to see if it says swift or free or reaction
Yeah.
or whatever.
Mhm.
Because it's, literally there's a little triangle thingy, a rhombus, I suppose. I don't know why I rolled that R. This is why we
I
don't
don't
get to
know.
be by ourselves.
Hey, we are fun.
Somewhere Rick is shaking his head like,
Ooh,
oh my god,
Probably.
we left
He shakes
them
his head at
alone.
me on a daily basis, so I'm used to it.
This is like girls' night
Married
out,
me.
except with a book.
I mean, granted, that probably would have been my night out when I was growing up because I was that person who was like, hey, let's meet at Borders.
Oh man.
Oh,
Anyway,
Borders.
we're gonna focus. We're not gonna get that off
Okay.
stream.
No.
Off topic. I don't know. Anyway, so yeah. Anybody want to say anything else about the introduction? I mean, it's got nice art always.
I mean,
Yeah,
I know a lot of people like to skip the introduction, but honestly, if you're new to second edition, read through the introduction.
Yeah,
It really
it's a good
does
overview.
lay out everything in a way that's easy to understand.
yeah,
Yeah,
true.
I agree. It gives you a short rundown so that you're not flipping through because I think each section, once you get to like chapter 2, has like 10 pages per like class, or maybe that's chapter 3. That's chapter 3, but like for 10 pages like per class, and it's like, well, or you could just look at the introduction real quick, get just a quick overview, and be like, oh, okay, I want to play sorcerer, and then you can go to the sorcerer.
Yeah, I would not recommend just sitting down and reading 638 pages straight through like a
No.
chapter book. Like, no one's gonna absorb the rules like that. You're gonna have to
No.
come back. Just read what you need to read.
Because you're gonna learn the rules by playing.
Yep.
Yes, there's a question about that. We'll talk more about it in a bit.
Oh.
Let's move on to Ancestries, which we have the terrible habit of still calling races, but it's definitely
No,
Ancestries.
We're
I mean,
breaking that habit. It's just
only-
we've done it for so long.
Yeah, I've only got 20 years of that hammered into my brain.
But I
So-
do like that it's called
Oh, yeah.
Ancestries because I think it makes more sense.
yeah.
You know, because when you're talking to people in real life, you're not just looking at what's your race. You'd be like, hey, where's your family from? What's your ancestry?
Mhm.
It's like, well, heck, I'm German way back in the day. It's like that's
I'm German. That's an American
am.
thing, though. Like, that's a thing that
Yeah.
Americans do.
I know it's kind of a weird thing.
Yeah.
It's like we hear an accent, and we're like, where are you from? You can't be from here. And it's like, well, maybe maybe they are.
Yeah.
Like,
Okay. Yeah. So obviously, some classic ancestries in here. The new one, new for core rulebook anyway, is the Goblin, which I haven't actually played a Goblin in second edition yet. So
I haven't
mean-
either. I've only ever played in the first or first E, and 1E whenever we're doing the specials.
Yeah,
Oh,
Weeby
Weeby
Goblins.
Goblins.
Yeah, Weeby Goblins, yeah.
I mean, I understand why they chose goblins. They're kind of Paizo's mascot monster, but
yeah.
I am still on the fence of whether or not that should have been in the core rulebook.
Yeah.
Which brings us to a great question from Tilted Axis on our Discord. What additional races should have, they said races, see, that's a first edition thing, should have been included in the core rulebook?
I say orc.
I also say orc. Mostly because you have half orcs in there, and
yeah, like that makes sense to me. I was like, if you're gonna have a half elf and an elf, I feel like you should have a half orc and an orc.
But they said races, so it could be more than just that.
But yeah, I mean that's a valid point because half elves can choose from elf and human heritage and ancestry feats, and half orcs can choose from human and orc. But there are no orc ones in the core rulebook because the ancestry is not there.
Yeah,
so
there's just like some extra little baby ones.
So it would have made, I think, more sense to do the orc in the core rulebook.
I could have almost seen tieflings too.
And yes, we know that people say tiefling, but I like how tiefling sounds better.
Tiefling sounds weird to me.
I always pronounce it.
Yeah.
Tiefling makes me think of tea, like somebody is like a tea brand.
It's sweet sounding.
Yes.
Yeah.
I've always just said tiefling just because I kind of look at it phonetically, and I'm not great at phonetics. So don't be like quoting me on that, but that's just how I say it. It's like me with the drow argument. I never had an opinion on it because I said it different ways every single time I brought it up because I was like, I have no idea.
The drow would have been an interesting like heritage for elves instead of making them a separate race.
Yeah.
Kind of like you could have taken Dwarger and made them a heritage of.
Have they even? I know they're probably in the
been
monsters manual, but have they talked about being able to play Drow and Dugar and stuff in second edition yet?
I don't think so.
I don't think so. Not yet.
Interesting.
That would I just thought of it, but that would be kind of a cool way to go with it because I mean, aren't Drow just elves that were in the Darklands for a long, long time?
I think in the Pathfinder mythos, yeah.
I mean, I don't know.
There's some curses and demon princes and stuff like that involved.
Sure.
But
of course,
yeah.
Of course, oh man. I mean, I guess speaking of heritages, I think it's kind of cool. Like, I don't think that was in the playtest, right? There were just races, and then there were races. There were just ancestries and ancestry feats, and they added the heritages.
I think I remember because I don't remember getting.
Yeah, I don't remember having. I think it was just an ancestry feat, but. You know, I really like how they did half elf and half orc, and I really think it has a lot of potential about how they've already done Asmars and Tieflings in God, what is the name of that book that they're in? Anyway, I just had a total blank. But that also has a lot of other potential for other half races eventually, like half ancestries, like. You know, maybe eventually we'll get half dragons and things like that.
Yes, that'd be so fun.
Be, cool. Be the Dragonborn.
There are Dragonborn. They're just not on Golarion.
Yeah.
As far as the heritages go, I like them. Like at first I found them a bit strange to have like the ancestry and then the heritage, but then I was like, as I was thinking about it, I was like, you are part of two worlds. And so you would kind of develop your own culture and other people that are half would also understand that. But again, you're removed. Well, and so I was like, yeah, it would make sense to have that heritage that's different.
And I like the heritage feats just in general, even for like dwarves and elves and everything. And it's the ancestry feats and the heritages, you have a lot of growth that you could do as the game continues on. They could do a lot of things with that.
Yeah, I like it's a little bit like in first edition they had kind of alternate race traits and that sort of thing. It's a little bit like buffing those up and giving you one for free, which is cool.
But instead of having to say, well, I'm losing my, +2 to, overcome, spell resistance as an elf for this, you know what I mean? Things like that.
Which is pretty neat. The only heritage, okay, I might be saying something that no one will agree with me on, which is fine. And I've played humans. I think humans are interesting. They can be interesting. I think that human heritage feats, just the human ones, are so boring. Like, you're either a half elf or a half orc, which is a whole different thing, or you get an extra skill or an extra feat. Like, those are great things mechanically to get, but like the flavor's just not there.
I feel like it's almost a throwback to first edition where you could get an extra skill point or hit point per level, and here's an extra feat just because you're human.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping they kind of expand on that as more books come out for the second edition line.
Maybe and they may have more stuff. I mean, obviously the advanced player's guide is out, and there's more stuff that might be out there, but we're just talking about the core rulebook.
Yeah.
Man. And then I guess that moves into backgrounds.
I am a huge fan of the background.
Yeah, I really like the background system.
It just really, especially for me, because the character creation process is probably my favorite part when you are getting ready to play the game. And I felt like sometimes in 1E, I would have this great idea for this character concept, but then it's like, now I'm a first level character and everything my character has done makes no sense. And so I feel like the background skills kind of helped bolster it a little bit to where it's like, okay, now I can have these really interesting fleshed out characters that, it doesn't make sense, or it's not strange that they're still a level 1 character. I don't know. I felt it developed who they were as people better, in my opinion. I don't know what y'all got.
I just like it. It's a good system. I mean,
yeah, I just really like it.
I like how one of your two of your stat bonuses come from your background, and it's cool that it gives you basically a background feat. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's one of those. You can say in your background you're a blacksmith, but if you were playing a fighter in 1E, you might not have had that extra skill point to put into craft. So you could say you're a blacksmith all day long, but not have the skill doesn't.
That's kind of what I meant. Yeah,
and so now
you articulated it much better, Heather.
Yes.
Thank you.
So now it's one of those, okay, so I took this trait and now I have the craft. I have a crafting. I'm trained in crafting for blacksmithing or something because that's what my background is. So I think like Rachel was saying, I think it makes the character seem more realistic from what you have written as on their background. So what they are on their character sheet.
Yeah. And I really like that, like the APs will have them have backgrounds for you to choose from that are actually going to come into play in the AP. There's a lot of really neat things that you can do with backgrounds. It's essentially just like a bigger trait, right? Instead of picking 2 or 3 traits, you get one background. And
it feels like they kind of combined stuff too, where you got multiple things. And so you didn't need a bunch of traits.
Traits were nice, but they, eventually that +1 to will save versus fear is not going to really be that helpful. Well, it seems like the background feats and, of course, your stat bonuses, those are going to be helpful for a lot longer. Mm-hmm. So it's like they combined, instead of picking 2 or 3 little things, it's now you've got your background and it's actually really useful.
Yeah.
That's true. Is there anything else in this chapter we want to talk about? I mean, we're not really looking specifically at any of these things. There's so much in this book that we would take forever to try
we could literally do one of these on each chapter. So we're just
hitting the highlights.
Yeah.
I will say, I liked playing an herbalist. I like that you get a feat. I think it's cool. And we talked a little bit about humans and half elves and stuff. So if you have any specific questions about any of the stuff that you want us to go more in depth on, you can always put them in the chat, dear listeners or dear watchers.
I would like to know what everybody's favorite ancestry right now is going. I mean, everybody knows my love of halflings.
My favorite ancestry is always going to be elf. It's been my favorite since it's been my favorite since AD&D. It's not going to change anytime soon.
My favorite ancestry is human with the half orc heritage.
Yeah. So cute little side story. Because Rick knows how much I love halflings. One of the first presents he ever bought me was a 1E book on halflings.
The Halflings of Golarion book?
Yeah,
oh my
he
God,
bought me that.
Oh my
That's so cute.
That's cute.
Yep.
All right.
Because he knows I love my halflings.
Hey, next up is classes.
Yay,
so
classes.
Many changes to classes.
A lot of questions about classes too.
Do we just want to go through the questions?
Yeah.
I want to start with 2 things regarding spellcasting. First of all, bards are full spellcasters now.
I think that's a great decision.
I mean, come on, they're lovers, not fighters.
I know, it's super cool. I think that I mean, 5e has bards be full spellcasters, so I wonder if there was something there.
Kind of influencing it, yeah, maybe.
But I like the occult list. I think it makes a lot of sense.
Yes.
It gets the occult list in there, which is cool. We'll talk more about spells later. But on the opposite end, rangers don't have spells as written in the core rulebook.
That's weird to me. I always used my ranger spells to buff my animal companion, so I would take things like Magic Fang and and then my healing spells would be for the animal companion, so it didn't tax on the cleric. So rangers without spells is just strange to me. I always memorized the buff spells, so they weren't like combat spells, but I wonder if they'll do an archetype or something eventually that gives rangers back their spell casting.
I think they did in the APG. Yeah. They're focus spells.
Yeah. I'm the opposite, where my rangers usually didn't have an animal companion. So I constantly forgot I even had spells. And like it would be like once in a blue moon, it'd be like, oh, I can cure light wounds myself.
I think when I played the ranger that I played in Rise of the Rune Lords, he cast spells like 5 or 6 times, and most of the time it was like named bullet for the investigator that had a gun.
Yeah.
But like Sagira not having spells, I didn't miss at all. So I'm actually pretty okay. I like the idea of adding them back in as focus spells in the APG, but I actually think rangers work pretty well without spells.
Oh no, I think they work well without spells too. It's just it's one of those things that's going to take a little bit to get used to.
Well, there's also the champions don't have to be lawful good anymore, which I think is rad.
Yeah. I think there is a place for the lawful good paladin still, of course, in second edition. Yeah. But it's cool that you can, be a chaotic good champion and things like that now too.
Well, and I think that makes sense. I this is going to be a really obscure reference, but it always makes me think of this is going to be real obscure.
Oh gosh.
So I used to read this manga called Sayuki.
Oh, I know Sayuki. Okay.
So, well, yeah, but not everybody knows it. And it's still one of my hands down favorites, even though I never actually finished the story, which makes me sad. But one of the main characters he's a monk who's, they're supposed to be these like lawful good. And it's like, oh no, this character is not lawful good, chaotic at best. And I'm like, but it still worked for his character. And I was like, and I feel like that opens up a lot of doors for character, development that you can do in Pathfinder. It's like people aren't perfect. They don't always have to be lawful good to be doing good things.
I think I just have a weird issue with the law occasionally, because I feel like the good part's so much more important for what I think of as a paladin, like a traditional paladin. The good part is so much more important than the law part.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think they might have even added in like evil paladins. So like in the APG, I think there are like
did they bring back the blackguards
and like the anti-paladins and stuff? Yeah. Oh, sorry, we're focusing on this book.
Oh,
That's what we're doing.
Yeah, this book.
This book.
Let's see. Looking at it, one of the questions. I'm going to skip around in these. Let's do.
All right.
Ben from the Discord asks, instead of the alchemist, what other class would you put forward as the new core class?
Jess, you have to go first on this because you're so excited about this one.
I would have put the Oracle in.
Yeah.
I know why they put the Alchemist in, because they really needed to hammer out how alchemy and crafting was going to work. Mm-hmm. But I would have put the Oracle because you have the Sorcerer and the Wizard, although they changed the Sorcerer so much that that's not exactly how, like, it's not quite arcane all the time. But then you have the Cleric, and it would have been nice to have had the Oracle spontaneous version. These are my thoughts. Also, I love Oracles, so that's a thing.
Mine's just because I love witches in everything, and I would like to see a witch in the core.
Witches are cool.
I love witches.
I would actually choose something like the Magus, because you've got your fighters and you've got your wizards, and I think it would be nice to have something that's a blend of both in the core rulebook.
I could see that one.
So, where it's one of those, I want to do a bit of both. I mean, it's easier to multi-class now, but I really think that the Magus could have been a good choice for the core rulebook.
Oh man, we didn't even talk about that yet. I like the Magus. I think that would have been cool. You know what else would have been interesting? The Gunslinger, because that's a mechanic, right? That's a weird mechanic that could have been in the core rulebook.
I haven't played a Gunslinger, but I did play an investigator with a gun, and that was pretty fun.
I liked my Gunslinger when I played her in the Wild West of the
Mana
Wastes. Anyway.
I love the Mana Wastes.
So Heather brought it up, so let's talk about the archetype system. Instead of multi-classing, essentially you just take a dedication.
I think it's much more manageable.
I think it makes more sense. Like it feels more organic than, oh, I'm 3 levels of this and 3 levels of that. It's like, well, no, you're choosing kind of a pathway.
Well, trying to figure out your like, what's my base attack and what are my saves, and like that stuff can get real convoluted, especially if you are new. This way, you really just have to look at your dedication that you want to go into and make sure that you're going to qualify, because I built Clove without a wisdom high enough to qualify for the druid dedication, so Clove can't take it. And that's my beat.
Chloe's going to have to do some retraining.
It's fine. She'll just be a barbarian.
And I like the fact that it's one of those, okay, so you take the rogue dedication and now you can take that 1 or 2 rogue feats you want, but you're still mostly a fighter.
Yeah.
Instead of going, well, I kind of want sneak attack and some extra skills, but now my base attack's going to be lower and all of that shenanigans from 1E.
Yeah, it's nice. And I really like that they've put, I wonder if they're in the core. Let me look at them real quick before I start talking, because I think that I think they put more than just, you could be a fighter as an archetype. I think they put like a couple of other things. I could be wrong. I've been wrong before. Wouldn't be the first time in my life I was wrong.
Well, we're reviewing this book after we flipped through other books, so it's one of those.
I think I'm wrong, like entirely 100% wrong.
While you're still looking, though, I will say this is something that I did enjoy that they put in this chapter. Was the like samples.
Oh yeah.
Especially for newer players, I think that's a really good like almost template.
Yeah.
That they can build off of.
Yeah.
I would probably have definitely used one of those when I first started if I'd been given something like that, because I would have looked at the art and been like, yeah.
And I really like the 3 choices every class gets. Like the rogues have their rackets and everything. So it's one of those, you're a rogue, but you can have 3 rogues in the party that could do completely different things because somebody's a thief and somebody's, I can't remember the other 2.
The bruiser, I think.
Yeah.
The versatility is awesome.
So it's one of those, the classes aren't so much the same anymore.
I will say I was incorrect. It's only classes in the core rulebook. They start adding the other dedications in like APG and stuff. Although I did find probably my favorite piece of art in this whole thing. Let's see if I can put it up here.
Yes. That face is amazing. That'd be me if I was a...
That's a druid with a barbarian dedication.
That's awesome. I love it.
Okay. I love that very much. Let's see.
All right, we have more questions.
Yes, we do. Okay, here's an interesting, tricky question from Dizzy Dwarf. How do you all feel about the current caster versus martial balance in PF2?
I'm not gonna lie, I don't think I have enough experience with it yet, because I've only played martial characters so far in 2E.
I think after going through Darkmoon Vale, I feel like the casters are more useful at lower levels, because it used to be, okay, I burned through my 2 magic missiles today, and now I'm gonna Ray of Frost for a D3 damage the rest of the day.
That's true.
And now they have these cantrips that level up with them and are actually do like useful things.
Yeah.
So I feel like everybody's more on an even keer starting off, instead of martial characters are really strong until the wizard gets fireball, you know?
Yeah.
So
that's true. That's very true.
I also think, I mean, I play a lot of Society in our Discord, and I have 4 or 5 different characters of different classes now, and they feel pretty balanced as long as you know how to take advantage of all of your abilities and actions. There's always a spell that you can cast no matter what tradition you're using that's going to do something. The only thing I was really concerned after the playtest with casters, because we'll talk more about it in spells, but they did a number on some spells, and there's some things that are a little bit different. There's it doesn't feel like you get quite as powerful quite as fast as a caster, but you start a little more powerful. So I think the balance is there. Now, whether or not you're looking for balance, that's the other question.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Okay. Curious what other people think about this.
Yeah, me too.
All right. Anything else in classes? I mean, obviously, favorite classes in the core rulebook. Anybody?
Favorite? I Bard, Rogue, Sorcerer.
Oh, 3. Ooh, we get to pick 3, Rachel.
We get to pick 3.
Druid, Ranger, Barbarian.
Druid, Ranger.
Barbarian was fun.
Okay. Fighter, obviously. I love my fighters. Probably Sorcerer, because I don't really do prepared casters. I like my spontaneous casters. And I'm gonna go with Rogue. I always like being the one that disables the traps.
The rogues are good.
Yeah.
Rogues are good. Also, all the class feats and stuff are hilarious.
Yeah, if we're going like advanced player's guide, I'd have a different favorite, but we're not doing that. So
Oh, and I guess we should talk about animal companions and familiars, because I like that it's not tucked underneath the druid or underneath the wizard. Because that drove me nuts trying to find those rules.
Yeah.
So those being on their own is cool.
I look forward to actually trying one out, because sometimes I would literally avoid characters that had familiars or animal companions because I didn't want to deal with the complicatedness sometimes.
I've been playing this game forever, and when I took improved familiar for Masika, I still had to go to Rick and go, look, I cannot figure out the Clockworks familiar's just base bonuses to its skills.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Because so it's nice just to have it so simplified. Even as they've added improved familiar in the APG, it seems like it's still very, this is what they do, and there's none of that. Okay, what is the bonus to this?
Look at this chart.
Yeah.
Look at this chart here. Do math. Sometimes they add. Sometimes you take the highest one.
Get the conspiracy string going.
Yeah, none of that. I like the animal companions too. I think it's cool that they have support benefits, like so that you can take them, and even if you're not going to use them as your like, let me buff the animal and send it in, they have things they can do to help you, which is cool.
Yeah, you don't have to treat them like Pokemon.
Yeah. You do have to give them you have to spend an action to give them 2 actions, but you get 3 actions. So it's really, I play one of my main characters in Society is a druid. And aside from the fact that her movement speed is 20 and her badger's movement speed is 20 because of armor, that's annoying. It's actually not that big of a deal. So it's pretty nice.
Also, can we talk about the art?
Which art?
Of the kitty with wings.
Okay. Kitty with wings. Here we go. Is he in the frame?
Yes, he's so cute.
And I just remember flipping through this, and I was just like, oh my gosh, it's my Dexter.
Oh my goodness gracious.
Does Dexter have wings? It's been so long since I've been to your house.
Sadly, no, but sometimes I think he thinks he does.
Oh, unrelated to Dexter's wings, can we talk about the fact that there is no dog animal companion in the core rule book?
What?
There's a wolf, but there's no dog.
Interesting.
I mean,
how are you going to be
bothers me.
a halfling without a dog that you ride around on? I mean, you can take a wolf.
I can't be Sir Didymus anymore.
Sorry, there's a dromaeosaur, but there's not a dog.
Interesting.
Yeah. That seems very strange to me. I guess they were like, oh, people will pick a wolf, and I was like, well,
you can just take a wolf and say it's a dog, which is fine, but it's weird.
Yeah.
Because I feel like the wolf gives you, like, trip and stuff, but I feel like the dog should give you, like, I don't know, something else. I don't know what.
Yeah.
Anyway.
That's very weird.
Yeah, it's strange. Okay, now we can, I guess, move on, unless there's anything else in classes we want to chat about.
No, I think
we good.
Yeah. Sweet. I guess we'll move on to a very exciting chapter called Skills.
Which they have streamlined yet again.
Yes.
They did that. Mm-hmm. Pathfinder did that from 3.5, and now they've done 1E and even slimmed it down in 2E, which I think is a good decision.
I appreciate it because when you play those, like, you only get a couple of, like, I guess they're not skill ranks anymore, but you only get a couple of skills to choose. At least, you know, if you take athletics, it's everything that's athletic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is a little thing about the book that I really enjoyed, though, just flipping through it. And this kind of accounts for all the chapters, but I noticed it when I first got to skills, that they reference other areas in the book. Like, hey, if you're looking at, like, for example, I'm looking here under the general skill actions, decipher writing, and it tells you, hey, go to page 234. Mm-hmm. You know, and they do a lot of that throughout the book. Like, if you want to look at this specific thing, and it kind of guides you a little bit better than the first edition book.
Yeah.
And I think they do a much better job of breaking down what the skills can do under each skill.
Yes.
Because there's a bunch of stuff that you can do in 1E once you get like 10 ranks and something. And that's never really explicitly explained anywhere. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so it's very nice to have here, read about the skill. These are all the things you can do.
Here's the actions you can take when you're trained versus not trained.
Not trained.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty nice. I really specifically looking at some of the I guess their activities that they've added underneath skills. The learn a spell activity is pretty interesting to me. I haven't tested the theory, but according to how it's written and according to my reading comprehension, a bard who's a spontaneous spellcaster could study a book for an hour or talk to another bard for an hour and learn a new spell. Instead of being like, well, I'm a spontaneous caster, I only know X number of spells. You could like learn a new spell, and all you have to have is like the skill check that you roll, and you have to like pay the gold to learn the spell and stuff. But that's pretty cool.
I think that makes sense though. Like if you're traveling with a party and there's like a wizard and a bard, they
have to have the same spell list. So if there was a witch and a bard.
Okay. But I mean, that would make sense. Like if you both kind of drew your power from the same place, it would make sense that somebody else could teach you how to do something.
Yeah, which is cool because like those spontaneous spellcasters, the big issue that people have had with them for a long time is that they're not as versatile, right? Because you don't have a book, you don't get to prepare every day. But this is like one way if you wanted to spend the money and the time that you could maybe add a spell or two that you needed, which is cool. Unless I'm misreading that, really but you know what? Rick's not here right now, so I'm
sure he's listening.
He's in the chat.
Sure.
I see him in the chat. I haven't been corrected yet, so maybe I'm right. And if not, just tell your GM that I'm right.
Yes, find the path. Let's do it this way.
Oh, sorry. The first rule book is that the GM's always right.
Yeah.
It's the first rule. Still the first rule.
Well, the GM's not here right now, so it's us.
I GM sometimes.
Yeah, Jessica is the resident GM here, so we're going to
get wild.
We're not in the mana waste. Hold on.
Not yet.
Not yet.
And like I was kind of saying earlier, I think it's really much easier to manage your skills. And I think it's a lot easier for a specific character to shine in a specific skill that they're eventually expert or master and legendary in when the rest of the party is not. Because, you have some of the situations now where like a character has that as a class skill, but maybe their modifier is not as high. So the person doesn't have as many ranks is still managing to get higher scores, even though it doesn't really make sense, Yeah. So I think this lets people really, shine in their specific field of knowledge.
Yeah.
So
I will say I was that person that would always miscount when I was doing my skills. And so I kind of like that everything just is automatic. Be like, hey, if you're good at this thing, you're going to continue being good at this thing.
Yeah. The proficiencies are neat. I was going to talk about this with a question later, but I like that all of your skills get better with your level because it did suck to be like a 15th level whatever and you still have like a 0.
Yeah.
So
because sometimes you didn't have the skills to put in it, and it was like, but I feel like this would be something they'd be good at.
I would
like
be able
my
to
paladin, my paladin archer in Curse of the Crimson Throne, who only had her 2 in perception because of her elven, heritage or her elven, racial trait.
Yeah, my my sorceress from I think it was also Carrying Crown. And so we played it off because I bought the goggles of minute seeing or the eagle one. I can't remember.
Man.
And we just said, oh yeah, she needs glasses.
Perception isn't even a skill anymore, y'all.
I know. I know.
That's a thing. I like that. That's a thing.
I kind of like it.
But you still get better with it as you level up.
But you can start as like an expert at perception at first level in some classes, which is cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tyler. You want to know what I miss? I miss taking 10.
Oh my God.
You could take a feat to take literal 10.
I know.
But that's not helpful.
But it's not to take 10. It's to take 10 plus the modifier. You don't even get your proficiency.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, why? Why would I waste a feat on that? Anyway, moving on.
I'm sure somewhere in the math it makes sense, and I'm not math minded, so I'm just gonna.
We're calling out assurance right now. Assurance is on the table. I think assurance is one of those feats that there's a feat you can take after you've taken assurance. That's cool.
Yeah, but I'm just like, that's sometimes I'm like, when you're just doing something casual, that your character should be good at on a normal daily basis, you should be able to just take 10.
Well,
I know.
And aiding others is so hard at first level. Like at first level, you're not helping anybody because you have to roll a 25.
Yeah, you're just hoping and praying.
So maybe when you're a big, strong adventurer, you can help the bejesus out of people. But when you are a first level and you want to work together on something, too bad.
Good luck.
Good luck. The way they reworked the medicine heal, whatever, with treat wounds is rad. Because you can actually get around having a healer. You can take battle medic, and then you can do it as standard action. As an action. See, it's hard.
As an action.
But it heals for 2d8. That's legit.
That's pretty cool.
And the DC is only 15. It's not a super high DC.
Yeah, well, and also, again, I think you mentioned this maybe earlier today or just when we've been talking, where it removes the need for that healer class. It means
I still love my clerics.
Oh,
I still love my clerics, don't get me wrong. But, if you did have a group, everybody creates a character and nobody thought to do one, you're not screwed like you normally would have been. We don't have a healing.
Play a barbarian who takes battle medic, right? You can do the things that make no sense together and it's fine. Or if you're the healer, you can also take that and then you're just a healing machine.
Yeah.
Which is cool.
Cool.
All right,
step on the battlefield, everyone's healed.
Anything else in skills? I feel like, there's a lot of stuff in skills that's neat. I like that lore is also profession.
Yeah.
Which is cool.
It's kind of cool. I like how skills work now.
Yeah.
I like how skills work. We talked about aiding. Oh, thievery is a weird name for the thievery skill.
Yeah.
But I can't think of a better one.
Yeah, because it's like disable device and, sleight of hand and all that kind of stuff rolled into one.
Yeah, so it's fine.
Just be called sneaky.
Okay, the next chapter has also an amazing piece of art. I'm just going to show my book a lot. Hold on. I'm coming.
There we go.
That's awesome.
That is pretty cool.
It's a monk punching a nightmare.
That's awesome.
So I just imagine it's Sudi punching a nightmare. That's how he gets rid of his bad dreams.
Oh, yeah, that is how he gets rid of his bad dreams.
But anyway, so that brings us to the feats chapter. That's where we're at.
Oh my God, so many feats. Many of your favorites have been reworked to work in 2E. And then a lot of them are skill feats now that unlock extra things that you can do with your skills, but you have to be an expert and things like that before you can take some of them.
It feels a lot like the unlock system that was in Pathfinder Unchained in first edition.
Yeah.
And
it does.
The Unchained Rogue got to unlock all these cool things. So it's everybody can do that now, which is fun.
Yeah, I kind of like that.
It makes your skills matter more.
I think so.
Yeah.
Because skills always mattered, but it's they really matter.
Yeah.
And again, like I mentioned earlier, I think it's going to pave the way for a lot of cool things in future books that they're doing it this way.
Yeah.
I did when I was leveling up Celestine. I got a skill feat at that level and I was like, none of these are really calling out to me. But some of them are really cool for things that she didn't have, unfortunately.
Yeah. So the core rulebook has a little bit of that, these are all fine. The druid in the core rulebook is fine, but it's missing some of the cool stuff it had before.
It's one of those, this is the foundation.
Yeah.
And, they have to set that strong foundation here in the core rulebook to build upon. So I imagine
I'm missing my 10 years of extra content. Why? Why don't I have 27 classes and 600 pages of spells?
I was going to say, one of these days, Heather will get her spell compendium.
Oh my God.
They're making spell decks. So
I know,
similar.
I'm excited for that.
Okay, 1E is done. Can I have my freaking 1E spell compendium now?
That's true. 1E is done.
The 1E is technically done.
Gotta call Eric Mona up and be like, Mona, what's up?
We need it. We need it.
I am really excited for the spell cards, but we're getting off track.
Yes, we are. We are again. Dang it.
There are so many feats. There's a ton of really cool things. The skill unlock like feats are really cool. Feats are where you're going to go to learn more languages in second edition, which is one of my big beefs with second edition, but we'll get on to that later.
That's because you're a language monkey.
Oh yeah, I am.
I like languages, man. You got to start with a high int or else you're not getting a bunch of languages without a feat.
But I will say though, another discussion for another part of the book.
But I do think it makes sense to not have it like just here. I'm just going to add a rank to linguistics because I'm like, come on, learning a language is actually really difficult.
Stop
this is a fantasy
adding
world,
realism
Rachel.
to my fantasy setting.
Okay, you can't draw the line there.
We haven't even gotten to the line. To you, the line is a dot. Friends reference. Bam. 90s. I don't know. Okay. There are some fun feats. So I really like dubious knowledge because you'll get something right and something wrong if you fail, which is hilarious.
Yeah, that is fun. That is fun.
And the names are fun.
There's a lot of cool stuff.
Bizarre magic. That just sounds hilarious. I don't even know what that does.
Your magic becomes more difficult to identify.
Yeah.
Oh, fair enough.
Yeah. I don't know. There's some cool stuff. I can't wait to start playing around with 2E a little bit more and getting into the different feats that you can take. Of course, I'm also the one that's guilty about not taking my feats.
Although I will say, additionally, some of the things that you used to be able to do for free are feats now, like being able to recognize a spell as it's being cast. You now have to have the feat to do that. Identifying things in a shorter amount of time, you now have to have the feat to do that. Like some of that stuff is kind of annoying.
But there's some cool new ones that I like.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure. For sure.
I like that. Okay, so this people may know this or not, but I know sign language relatively. I'm very out of practice, but I like that they included sign language in the newer stuff, and it wasn't just this weird afterthought. Like it's like, no, it's actually a language.
Oh, hey, hilarious question that's related to this chapter, so I'm going to ask it now. What's the best skill feat and why is it dubious knowledge? Automationeer. He knows what's up.
But feats are something we could, again, spend like hours and hours and hours talking about. So
okay, but I have one more for Heather specifically.
Oh, gosh. I didn't do it. It wasn't me.
You have to be legendary in Intimidation.
Mm-hmm.
But it's called literally Scare to Death. You can scare them and they will die.
I actually really like how they labeled each section. Like, these are the society ones.
I need that feat immediately.
Yeah. Let me read you this text.
I need to go.
You can frighten foes so much they might die. Attempt an intimidation check against the will DC of a living creature within 30 feet of you that you sense or observe, and who can sense or observe you. If the target can't hear you, they take a blah 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 blah. Who cares? But if they fail,
they just die.
Sorry, if you succeed, they become frightened. If you critically succeed, they die.
Oh my god!
Like they have to make a fort save or die.
So it's like me in high school.
I need this feat immediately.
It's one action. You could do it 3 times a turn. Just look at different guys and be like, die, die, die. They could just die.
That's kind of hilarious.
It's amazing.
That's
like what your bard takes.
Up in here.
That's what your bard takes. You take it, you make it a bard, you crank up that charisma killer bard.
God.
Oh, man.
Ooh,
I love it like so much.
The ultimate mean girl. You chose those shoes with that outfit, and then they die.
On Wednesdays, we wear pink.
Does this look like Wednesday to you? Anyway, I don't know. All right. Anything else on feats?
No, I think, like I said, we could talk about feats all day.
We could. Let's get to our next favorite thing. Everyone loves this, right? Equipment.
Can we talk about how the bulk system is stupid and then just move on from there?
The bulk system came out of Starfinder, and it's weird.
I can see why
I get why they
prefer it and
I get
why it's used.
It's easier math, blah 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 blah.
Except that you have to know that L equals 1/10.
1/10. Yeah.
And then you're dealing with fractions.
Yeah, I was like, I don't need fractions up in there.
The heck? I don't know. I mean, it's fine. Like, the only time you care about bulk is when you're trying not to fall, like, on a rickety bridge or something. But
I feel like my characters are way more encumbered way sooner in second edition than they were in first.
Yeah.
That's true. It's because, like, the bulk doesn't necessarily correspond with how much a thing would weigh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
And that's,
like,
it weirds me out.
Celestine has like a weapon and armor and her adventure kit, and she's like one step away from being encumbered.
You got to get a backpack and put everything in the backpack, apparently.
Yeah, which I'm like, wouldn't an adventure kit come with a backpack?
It does. The adventure kit does come with a backpack.
Okay, the adventure kit does it, because I thought there was one where it doesn't, and I was like, what the crap is this?
I mean, unless I'm looking at the adventurer's kit wrong.
I know it's probably me mixing it up with something else.
Oh, it's possible. I do like using silver instead of gold because suddenly copper actually matters.
And it makes a lot more sense for, average people to have silver pieces and only the rich people have gold. So it makes those like expensive like magical items and everything. It's like, here, this is, 500,000 gold. It makes those prices not seem so insane.
Yeah. Well, and like, I look at a thing and it's 7 gold and I'm like, oh, that's expensive.
Yeah.
Right?
That's too much.
Yep.
All right, cool. Yeah, I think that's fun. It's weird because you end up doing a lot of like, all right, I have 10 silver, so that's 1 gold. Cool. And so you do a lot of conversion. But I mean, it's metric essentially, so it's not a big deal.
Yeah. Thankfully.
As weird as this is, I got used to that in Dragon Age because their games were a silver-based economy. So,
nice. Nice. Let's see, what else? I like that the armor and weapons have kind of cool traits and stuff. Like,
I like
that too.
I can wear chainmail, but it's noisy. Like, that's cool.
Yeah.
It kind of adds character to like what was typically always seen as like, oh, well, I want the best, like the cheapest, but the best armor bonus. So let me pick this thing.
Yeah.
So now there's like a reason outside of that to take it, which is cool.
I like that too.
And if you're strong enough, you can ignore your armor check penalty and you
which
can
is
reduce your
awesome.
speed and
Yeah,
stuff.
I like that. Like that a lot.
It only is if you're strong enough. So sometimes you're still dealing with that. But it is cool.
Yeah.
I guess that's because wizards can wear armor now.
Yeah.
Probably.
Although I found that it's not worth it usually to be a wizard because you're not trained in it. So you don't get the proficiency bonus.
But it's nice to have the option because
they could still take
still
take a feat, I would imagine, and be trained in it if you wanted to kind of make your own magus until that class eventually comes out.
Like a bro wizard,
A blizzard. Yo, dog. My name's Samuel.
And I do like that class kits are in the core rulebook now because those were originally introduced in the ultimate equipment. So it's cool that they're in there so you can just kind of grab and go.
I hate that they come with the weapon and armor though.
That bothers me too because I'm like,
because I'm like, I don't want. Okay, yeah, I get that I'm playing a cleric, but I don't want a crossbow because I'm an elf.
Yeah.
So I end up just getting the adventurer's kit or adventurer's pack instead, and then like building onto it.
Yeah.
I guess the other one is like if you're super new and you're overwhelmed by a list of items, you can just take this thing and like go.
Yes, I understand the appeal, but I almost wish there was like an option like here's the kit with that and here's the kit without.
You could do the math to subtract the price out, I'm sure, if you want.
Yeah. But it'd be nice if they considered that like seasoned players versus regular because I think it would.
I'm one of those weirdos that when I get all of my base stuff out of the way, I go through those giant lists in the ultimate equipment and be like, ooh, this is a neat thing that my character might have.
I want chalk.
Yeah.
Well, and now they have like talismans and things, which we'll talk about when we get to that chapter because for some reason that's not equipment, even though you buy it for your equipping your character, but whatever. So there's tons of weird little stuff to buy.
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, those are expensive, I guess, mostly. Anyway.
All right.
Also, so you can buy dogs and horses and things, but you can't buy a cat, and that's a real misstep.
What?
Well,
yeah, there's no
honest,
cats in the animal section.
Cats refuse to be bought.
I wanted a kitty for something. I don't remember what I was doing. Oh, for a character I built recently, I wanted her to have a guard cat, like a kitty that like was a little bit like Ezio, who would like keep watch over the house while she was gone.
Yep.
No kitties, can't have.
So for those of you
He's our
who don't
greeter.
know, Ezio is
my
Rick
cat.
and Rachel's cat, not the assassin.
He is my son. He is my baby.
Assassin's
Ezio
Creed.
He might as well be. His full name is Ezio Auditore.
I want that assassin in here guarding my stuff in a cat body.
Yes.
That's what I want. How
Yes.
much is that?
I don't know. Ezio got his name for a very good assassiny reason. So
Yes.
Yep. So anyway, that's kind of where I'm at. Oh, critical specialization effects on weapons are also cool.
Yep.
Because you can be like, I'm really good with this thing, and so for that reason, it'll do this extra cool thing when I critical, which is often. Have we talked about criticaling yet? Oh, I guess that's probably in playing the game. God,
we're
only halfway.
I was gonna say we get a lot. We might need to just start answering questions.
Yeah,
as
we need
go.
to pick it up.
All right, we're going. Spells.
Okay,
We're in
spells. I love the new division.
Yes.
I
Yes,
love that
I
it's
like
not
the
based
new-
on class.
I like the new 4 list thing.
Mm-hmm.
I like sorcerers a lot in second edition, but I kind of wish that you got a couple of options per bloodline instead of just one option per bloodline.
It's
You
the
know,
same with oracles in APG.
yeah.
Yeah.
Not
So,
oracles, witches.
because it's one of those, maybe I want to be descended from, a devilish bloodline, but I don't want to be divine. Maybe I want to sling some arcane
arcane.
spells.
Yeah.
So I kind of wish every bloodline had like 2 lists to choose from.
That'd be
But
cool.
on the whole, I really like the 4 different lists, and I love the occult and
Yes.
the primal lists.
Yes. Although
yeah.
the primal list is missing some of the like really weird druid spells that were like swarm body, where you can just turn yourself into a collection of swarms and like.
Give it a little bit. I'm
Yeah.
sure you'll get
Yeah,
those.
I
They'll-
know. I
they'll
just
probably
want
come.
my weird spells that I use to disturb GMs.
That
Like,
is
you're gonna do
that is
what?
Jessica's entire life.
I've turned into a mound of fire ants, and I will crawl into their armor.
and like I mentioned earlier, I like the fact that cantrips are actually like freaking useful now
Yes.
and will level with your character.
Mhm.
So
Oh,
Yes, I love that there are
Yes.
spells with more powerful variants. So it's not
The
like, oh, I just
heightening.
forget my early spells once I get Fireball. You
Well,
know?
and your spell attack is actually like there's a number. You don't have to like
Yeah.
figure it out yourself. And your spell
Yeah.
DC is just 1 DC by your level, not by each level of the spell. So your first level spell is gonna matter even if you're
Yeah.
20th level,
Which I really like.
which is nice.
Really like.
So this is the part where we complain about spells, because a lot of the buff and utility spells got their durations just like chopped.
Yeah.
yep, to get the better duration, you have to memorize it in a higher slot,
But
which is
some
really
you can't.
annoying.
Yeah.
Heroism is 10 minutes now, and you cannot heighten it. I looked specifically to
Yeah.
make sure that I wasn't wrong about that.
Yeah.
Air bubble is 1 minute instead of a minute per level. So, like, I guess if you
And see,
want
that's one of the
minute being able
things
to
we
breathe.
really ran into in the playtest was when we
Yeah.
wanted to explore a lake and we literally could not figure out how
Yeah, I was
because
like, I guess we're not.
yeah, so they kind of made it easier to understand in the finalized core rulebook, but I'm still kind of bummed that like
Yeah,
it's not one of those where okay, so we need to explore underwater, and so water breathing, communal is like an hour per level, and I can split it up between the party evenly. Let's go. We got like
Mhm.
3 hours apiece. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
I'm just thinking about certain adventure paths where there were those spells were like you weren't making it through that book if you didn't have that spell.
No.
Yep.
But like heroism being 10 minutes, well, you better not ever want to stop and treat wounds. You better not need to refocus for have your focus points back.
Yeah.
Like, anyway, I have
Yeah.
issues with, and those aren't even like that. Like, I'm not even talking about fireball. Fireball's fine. Like big boom spells, those are
It's
fine.
the utilities.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
those are kind of sad to me.
Yeah.
I agree.
And the focus spells are cool. There's a bunch of them. They do a lot of cool stuff. All right. Anything else? I'm gonna kind of like
Focus spells are neat.
That's what I think. I agree.
Overall, spells are good. Utility needs some work.
Yeah.
They just need longer durations or a way to make them longer without. You know what? I bet there's a feat that gives you like extend or something that makes your stuff last longer. But like that's lame. They should just be longer.
Yeah.
All right. So the next chapter is the chapter about the setting, which I think is very cool because
I
it's
didn't read
great.
it because we're playing through Tyrant's Grasp, and I know we all know the Tyrant is back. I mean, that cat's out of the bag.
Yeah.
But I don't want to
I don't
delve.
know how.
Yeah, and I don't want to delve too much into it and get stuff for APs that we are playing for the podcast spoiled, because I want my reactions to those things to be in the moment and genuine. So I haven't really perused that section very much, besides like kind of double checking on my deities. But other than that,
I looked at a map of the Inner Sea and got a spoiler for Tyrant's Grasp, and I was like, what the damn it?
Yeah. So see, I've kind of been
language.
I've been trying to kind of avoid that stuff, which sucks because, you know, I really want to know how they've updated everything, but I'm also like, spoilers can't. You know?
I know.
There's
I'm in the same
spoilers
boat.
for everything. I mean, while we're talking about the Tyrant, I'm a little grumpy that he's back, because like, why didn't you just think of a cool new bad guy? Why you gotta release an old bad guy, right? You could have done a cool new guy, and then we wouldn't have to deal with spoilers.
That is true, but oh well, too late now.
They decided that they had wasted him by putting him in a tower. Well, that's on them, man.
Whatever. We're still getting some really cool stories and stuff out of it, so I'm okay. But...
I mean, it's true. I mean, I like creepy things. This is fine.
All right.
There's also the deities and stuff in there. So hopefully,
I didn't read.
You didn't look at the deities?
I didn't want to spoil things, so I skipped the whole section.
Okay, well, the deity section doesn't really have. It's just like, here's Asmodeus, here's Desna,
I know.
here's blah blah. Also, you can learn about the
haven't changed
Pathfinders.
much. Yeah,
they haven't, except for
they
Asmodeus not allowing lawful neutral, which makes me sense.
See, I actually kind of like that, and not just for like Asmodeus, but also for like Serenray, because it was always weird to have like a chaotic, like a neutral follower of Serenray when she's all about good and redemption.
I like everyone else. It's just him.
It's just one of those. See, I think it lends more towards role playing because you don't want to be like, oh, all of us are all about, you know, being awesome and good, except for Steve. He's just kind of you like, know. I mean, so
hey, who got cast for Asmodeus? I'm curious.
Was it Jason Isaacs?
I feel like it was Jason Isaacs.
Yeah,
but I think I'm salty because I like to play the Asmodean as like just really into contracts and like loopholes and stuff, and not so much into the slavery part.
Well, I mean, you could use exploiting loopholes for your evil gains that don't necessarily involve slavery.
But then I have to be evil, and I'm not very good at that. Anyway, okay, we'll skip on. We're carrying on. I like the settings in there. It makes it nice for us.
The setting is fun.
Golarion's great.
We like it.
Now we're in playing the game, which is where all the rules live. And we have a lot of
This is Rick's favorite
here.
chapter.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't spend much time.
I will say this is a chapter I didn't even look at until I was preparing for this conversation.
Yeah,
and I barely did.
Rick teaches us the rules.
Or I like Google the specific thing I'm looking for.
Yeah. That's me. I'm an Archives of Nethys.
And this doesn't just apply to Pathfinder. This applies to like other games and stuff. I can read a strategy or read a rule until, you know, my eyes are bleeding, but until I am sitting down and playing, it's not going to stick.
Yeah.
So let's talk about bleeding eyes, which leads into death and dying rules.
I like the death and dying rules. I think it's way more forgiving than, oh, somebody got a really big hit on you, sorry.
They are, but I also I've GM'd like 3 or 4 different games now where I have critically put someone on the ground and put them in dying too. And then like, or it'll be a monster that attacked them 3 times and like put them on the ground and then hit them again and they're dying 3. And then they pop back up to wounded 1 and then they go down again to dying 2. Like, it's yo-yo-y. I like that there's not negatives to deal with. But I think the bigger issue with death and dying rules is the critical change. The change to how criticals works makes it more deadly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that plus 10, some monsters are going to hit you no matter what. And most of the time.
That's why we got more hit points.
Yeah.
Yeah. But critical hits, man, they're way more often. All right. Let's look at some questions.
All right.
Drofter says, what do you think of all the secret roles? From a player and GM perspective, how do players feel about having your GM roll a substantial amount of checks for you? How do GMs find having to do a bunch of extra rolls? How do you handle it in situations where you need to do it fast, etc.?
Well, I like the secret roles mostly because, like, if a player gets a really good roll or a really bad roll, and they know it, sometimes that can lead to some metagamey role playing just because it's one of those, well, I know I rolled a 19 and got a 30 something. So blah, 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 and so it gets almost like into they try to have their character manipulate the NPC into revealing stuff because they know. And so this way you get told what the DM tells you and you don't have any idea what the dice said. So you just gotta, I think it leads to more natural role playing, I think is what I'm trying to say.
I highly agree with that. I like the idea of them. I think it does require some trust in your GM and trust in your players too. So there's kind of a give and take there because, you gotta be like, okay, I'm going to allow them to roll the dice for you. And for more superstitious people who are like, don't touch my dice, that can be a little bit hard to let go. I know they don't have to touch the dice, but it's still that like, I'm not rolling it. And so some people get really weird about that, but I think that's something you can get over. I think there could have been maybe a better method already laid out in the book for how to go about them. I mean, we kind of came up with our own method. Like we have our little chart where everybody's saves are on there. And we did share that on a Patreon blog post. Where we kind of laid out how we made a chart of everybody's saves, and it makes it a lot faster because then Ross, who was GMing for us, was able to just be like, oh, bam, 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 got it. So it'd be kind of cool. Hey, Paizo, we had this great idea. You could include it.
Pay us money? I think as a player, it's fine. It's a little weird because you're kind of giving over your agency to let somebody else roll, and that's kind of but as a GM, I find it obnoxious. Like, oh, they need to make a perception check. Cool. Let me roll 6 different dice and know what they're checking. Like, even if I have a chart, let me then check all of them, see if they pass. Like, that is just too much math, man. Like, I get that this is a game about math, but I find it preferable to let the GM decide when it needs to be secret. Instead of every recall knowledge being secret, maybe only the ones that really matter are secret. That way it's like, if you're just trying to identify a leaf on a plant, like, I don't care if you metagame that.
What's rule number 1? The GM
makes the rules. Unless you're playing Society, but then if you're playing Society, you have to follow all the rules as written.
Yeah, that's true.
So anyway, I think they're fun. I like the role play aspect, like Heather said and Rachel said, but oh, it's a lot to manage on top of all the stuff that GM's already managing.
Maybe if they had a better method for it, I think it's a good idea. But yeah,
it's more just having to know. You have to know everybody's you have to know everybody's bonus, and you have to know if they're trained or not trained, and if they have any little weird feats like dubious knowledge. Then you have to keep that in mind. There's like a lot of stuff, right? Yeah. So I think the idea was good. I think the execution is Yeah.
But it could be something they improve on a little bit later.
That's possible. And I'm sure everybody will come up with their own systems for playing their own games. All right. I am the Senate, says. How do you think players coming from 1E should adapt their tactics? Blah. How do you think players coming from 1E should adapt their tactics to the new edition? In 1E, combat was mostly won during character creation. That is not so true in 2nd edition and can lead to some surprise players. For example, when they go toe-to-toe with a monster, full attack or full attack, which is 3 attacks for 3 attacks in this case, like they would have in 1E and end up dead.
I feel like the 3-action economy kind of balances it out because players now have more HP at those levels, and they also have the 3 attacks to the 3 attacks. But it's just kind of remembering that you have the 3-action economy, and then you get used to it, and then you go back to 1E, and you're like, I don't know what I'm doing with my life.
Wait, what do you mean I can't also do this other thing?
Yeah.
And it's kind of also boils down to if you work well with who you're playing with, like know what everybody else can do, and try not to get punched in the face, I guess. I don't know. That seems like a bad advice.
It's this thing called a cooperative game.
Yeah.
It's true. Although, I mean, I haven't really noticed, I guess I don't play that way either. Like, I don't like just running there by myself, but I think it's like 2E is more about figuring out how to take advantage of all your actions. Like, you can move more, your shield is an action now. You can cast 2 spells in a round if you have the actions for it. It kind of feels a lot more, 1E, if you're playing a spellcaster, feels like a puzzle game, trying to pick the right things in the right moments. Now 2e feels like that for everyone because it's all about like, do I move here? Do I move there? Do I pull this? Do I not pull this?
Well, it's cool. To use his example, the fighter runs up and smacks the monster 3 times, and then the monster smacks him in the face 3 times. Hopefully he's got a cleric or somebody to come and heal him.
Battle
so,
medic.
Yeah.
Or maybe he should have just swung twice and put his shield up.
Yeah. But, So I think you have to it is a little bit of a challenge to rewire your brain thinking with a 3-action economy. But I think in the long run, once you get used to it, it's going to be a better system.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, this one kind of adds on to the idea, like, do you think that the 3-action, this is from Twist, do you think that the 3-action system makes combat too deadly now? And is that a bad thing?
I don't think so. I think it's just, you have to get used to it. And I have honestly found that the 3-action economy gives more versatility because you have more options of what you can do. So I don't think so.
Yeah, I actually almost feel like it's less deadly because, monsters hit harder and there's more attacks, but lower level characters have way more HP, and I feel like my first level characters in 2nd edition have way more options than my characters in 1e did. Mm-hmm. So I actually feel like it might be less deadly in the long run, especially at low levels.
It's also death and dying is different. You don't have to track, like, if you get hit and you're like -13 and you have a 14 constitution in first level, there is very little chance that without a cleric or somebody coming over and healing you before your next turn that you're going to live.
Yeah.
This way, aside from just having a real not nice GM who's like, ooh, you're on the ground, let me hit you some more.
Yep.
Which is possible. Some people will play that way, and those people are jerks. But you're usually going to be okay. Like, even if you get criticaled and put on the ground with a critical, you're only at dying 2. So you still have 2 more levels of dying, and recovery checks are much easier to pass now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and your saves get better as you level up in this game, like much more quickly. It's not, you don't have the problem that you're going to have in 1E where my 20th level fighter has a 5 will save.
It's true.
So.
All right. So, oh man, we're getting there, y'all. Okay. Humanesque asks, what's the one rule you expect people who come from 1E are most likely to get wrong?
I know exactly what this is. For me, the 5-foot freaking step. I miss it. All the time. I'm like, I'm going to 5-foot step over there. And then they're just like, you're going to take a move action. I'm going to 5-foot step over there. Sure, it's an action, but I'm a 5-foot step. Yeah, 5-foot step.
And that you have to raise your shield for it to actually count against on your AC.
Yeah.
I'm not going to rant. Anyway.
We're going to leave it at that. No ranting.
Heather has strong feelings about the shields.
I do have strong feelings about the shield.
Rant
anyway.
Later. Okay. She'll type up a blog. It'll be her rant.
Oh my gosh. And then kind of a follow-up from Gamer Girl. What's the one rule you expect people coming from Starfinder are most likely to get wrong?
I have not played Starfinder, so I don't know. Jess?
I have played much Starfinder, and in my Starfinding times. Anyway, the first thing that I always get wrong is the names of the skills, because they're all different names now. It's like,
yeah, that's true.
Culture instead of society, and like medicine, I think might be the same in both. And so that's not really a rule, but that's a thing that I still mess up. The other thing is actually Jordan brought up, because I was like, hey, Jordan, what do you think the answer is? Because I was like,
42 is the answer.
Obviously, always. Aside from that, though, in Starfinder, when you're kind of targeting and determining cover and stuff like that, you draw from the corner of your square, any of your corners to the corners of the opponent. In 2nd edition, you use the center of your square. I don't think that's different from 1st edition, but if you had only played Starfinder and you were going into Pathfinder, that could be one of those small details that trips you up, because it can change whether or not you have cover, whether or not you have line of effect. Like, some major things can depend on where you're drawing that line from.
Yeah.
So that's what I've got. Game mastering.
I mean, I don't game master, so,
I don't game master, but I want to say that I'm so happy that hero points are the norm. because I think it encourages your players to be like, I'm going to do this cool, awesome thing. Give me hero points.
Hero points are so good. Like, hero points keep you from dying so much.
Yeah.
Okay. So I guess I'll just tell you some things I think about the game mastery section. I think that the encounters are very different in second edition. They're done by threat level for your whole encounter. So if you're going to build an encounter, Ross had to do this a lot. You pick, I want this to be a terrifyingly, horribly hard, like they have names, but I don't remember them, type of encounter. And then it tells you how much kind of XP you'll budget for that threat level. And then you can use that XP budget to design all the things that are in the encounter. So it's different than totaling up each of the monsters in the encounter. So that's kind of a different thing about GMing especially if you're building encounters. There's a lot of great information about terrain, rules, et cetera, et cetera. The one thing I thought was interesting that I didn't realize is that there are now levels of difficult terrain. So difficult terrain. Oh
boy.
Yeah, difficult terrain is like an extra 5 foot for each 5 foot square or whatever. Now there's greater difficult terrain, which is even more severe than normal difficult terrain, and it costs an additional 10 feet of movement per square.
I think that makes sense because it'd be like different than you trying to make your way through deep sand versus trying to make your way through like jagged glass.
Yeah. So, I mean, I just thought that was interesting. Apparently I think there's a feat or something that can let you move through it like it's regular terrain.
Yeah.
There's always a feat.
There's a feat for something. Yeah.
So that's what I have to say about game mastering. There's a whole book on game mastering, and we'll make the boys talk about that one because we had to talk about, I mean, this is a lovely book. It's a wonderful book, but we had to talk about this book, so they're going to talk about that one.
I was going to say, we still have a lot of questions to get to.
We're going. I'm sorry. All right. Now, equipment part 2 / crafting and treasure. It has all of your crafting rules and all of the treasure / magic items / alchemical elixirs.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because
anything that's not mundane equipment, pretty much.
Mm-hmm. The crafting rules are great. I think it's really fun to be able to make stuff. I like how they work. Mm-hmm. Gives you something to do in downtime, which is nice.
I like that 2E has taken a step away from you have the big 6 magic items that you need as an adventurer. There's a lot more opportunity to go, you know what, I'd really like to keep this really cool thing that might come in handy once, but I really need this ring of protection. Now you can keep the really cool thing that might come in handy. So,
well, and you can invest.
Nice.
You can invest like 10 different things. It doesn't matter where you're wearing them.
Yes, I do like that. There's no more slots and things like that. Yeah. And I also like that you can just swap out runes. Like there's no masterwork anymore. So it's one of those. All right, so I have enough money to upgrade my sword. Let me just swap these runes real quick instead of Yeah,
I think the sword has to be like a good quality. But But it's way easier. You don't have to worry about, okay, well, I want a +1 sword, but my sword's only, isn't masterwork. So let me pay an extra 300 gold for it to be masterwork. Okay, now I can pay the $2,000 to make it +1. And you can remove the runes and put them on a new thing, which is
cool. Nice. Yeah, I like that.
I guess Rotha asks thoughts on magic items, mostly moving away from the big 6, except they kind of still exist. Changes to wands and staves, consumables, etc.
Like I said, I think moving kind of that shift away from the big 6 being essential items is a good thing. Your saves and everything leveling up with you means that you don't really have to get an item that adds to your saves anymore, and things like that.
Well, and you can just inscribe a rune on your armor instead of having to get a cloak or a necklace or a whatever.
Yeah.
Which is nice.
Wands being not having charges really anymore and are pretty much once per day it does a thing. I don't know how. I mean, I understand they were trying to get away from people buy 20 wands of cure light wounds and then ding the fighter for a whole wand and chunk it over your shoulder and get the next one.
Mm-hmm. Well, that was also because there weren't other magical options. Yeah. So I think with the battle medic thing, that's not going to be as big of a deal.
So I understand why they did it, but I kind of wish it wasn't just a one and done. I don't know if there are wands that have more than one thing a day, but yeah.
I mean, I haven't ever felt inclined to buy a wand in second edition, and I don't know if it's because of that or not. I do think the staves are cool because you can actually afford them at lower levels.
Yeah, that's kind of cool.
So I do think that those are fun. And recharging them and stuff is kind of, it is what it is. All right. Last question from this section. From Graph and the boys.
Graph and the boys in
Yep.
the mana wastes.
Yep. Most players think talismans are really bad. I don't know if that's true. That's just what Graph says. Nobody uses them except the magic weapon one. Paizo devs have repeatedly said that people are sleeping on them and released in the APG a dedication that makes them even better. So, talismans, duds or awesome?
I think the talismans are really kind of situational. Most of them do like one thing. I did buy a talisman for Celestine with our gold from the first part of Dark Moon Vale. I can't remember what it's called, but I think it's like I think it might be the Jaguar one where she can like,
the catfall thing?
Or something like that. Cause I was like, this could actually be really useful for a rogue.
Yeah.
I think it's one of those, I think it's almost like people are so used to the big six that they're like, oh, I need to save my money for this. And they haven't really given the talismans a try. But when I was reading through them, looking, so
they
looking
felt like
through the book,
stones to me.
Yeah. So
I think that the idea of them is cool. I buy the there's one, it's like the Crying Angel pendant or something that if you critically fail your medicine check, you don't hurt the person.
Yeah.
But the issue for me comes into this, like, it's consumable. You can use it one time. So I actually wrote down an example. There's an item called the Effervescent Ampule. It's a 2nd level item. It costs 7 gold pieces. You have to be an expert in acrobatics. And for paying 7 gold pieces and being an expert in acrobatics, what you get once is the ability to walk on water or over pressure plates without triggering them for 1 turn.
See, and that doesn't seem worth it to me.
No, but like there's some of them that seem really
of them are
cool.
better than others.
Yeah, so I think it's one of those things. They're trying to get away from the big six, and I think they're still trying to kind of even that out a little bit. I imagine as we get more of them and more books, they're going to probably play with it and figure out, we'll start getting ones that might be more useful in the long run.
What will people actually spend their fake gold on?
Hold on.
Yeah.
It's true. True. I guess the rest of this book is an appendix, conditions. It's cool. You can reference it. Very easy. The character sheet is in there.
Yep.
It looks like a character sheet. I have been weirdly using Hero Labs for 2nd edition. I guess because we're all at home. So I don't know. It's weird.
I don't like the color scheme of the character sheets that came in the character pack. But once I photocopy it and it's black and white, it doesn't bother me.
Huh.
Like I statted out the character we did for that trial run we did with you, Jess, on that character sheet. And this class specific ones are actually really nice. It's just I cannot stand the color scheme. But then, like I said, once it's black and white photocopied, I actually thought it worked pretty well. So at least they're like not sideways anymore.
I know that was going to be my comment. Be like, I was just happy when they made it portrait. I was like, I do kind of miss the smaller font size though, because everything just feels too big to me.
Well, there's less crammed on the character sheet.
Yeah,
I think it's Param in No Direction made one that's landscape, and aside from being landscape, which is kind of weird, it's smaller again, which I like.
Yeah.
Yes, his is really nice, and it is landscape, but the
trade-offs.
Yeah.
So
I'm sure someone out there will eventually come to a happy medium.
I don't know. I've gotten super spoiled with Hero Labs.
I was going to say I've used the dyslexic character sheets before, and I don't know if they've come up with 2E ones yet, but I'm excited to see what they come up with.
Yeah, it's one of those things where, like, 1st edition, I would never want to use Hero Labs. There's too much stuff. But 2nd edition, there's not so much stuff, and so...
And we used a Path Builder a little bit.
Yeah, Path Builder is good for 2nd edition,
Path Builder's really good for 2nd edition.
And
I couldn't
free.
figure out the first one. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is free and awesome.
And I think there's a Starfinder one, too, now. Anyway, not that show. All right, here are some... also, there's a Glossary Index. We started with that, though, so we'll skip on.
Yeah, y'all know how to use a glossary, and if you don't, Google it.
Ross in the chat has asked, what is our favorite 2E magic item?
Oh, I don't know enough. I haven't perused enough to answer that question.
Yeah, I don't
Give me time. Ask me again in 6 months.
Yep.
Yeah, true. There's just
Give
a
us
lot.
more cool stuff in Darkmoon Vale, Ross, and then we'll tell you.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, right. Exactly. All right.
I got my cool sword, but
all right. Trebalion from our Discord asks, what was the most surprising change from the playtest to the full release that you found? So these are kind of general questions. So if you're in the chat and you want to just ask us something random, like, go for it. Now is the time.
Yeah.
So anyway, what's the most surprising change from playtest to full release that you found?
I guess they didn't change this enough for me, but I really hated from 1E to 2E, the utility spells. That was
yeah.
They're better than they were in the playtest, but I still
they're better,
like,
but
as
not.
we discussed before.
It's surprising they didn't change them more.
Yeah, we were hoping for more change.
And I do like that you don't have negatives because instead of being untrained being 0, it was like a negative number.
It was like -4 or something.
Yeah, and so I'm sure the math is the same, but now it's like a 0 looks better to me than a -1. It's all a psychological thing. So I'm glad
it's all psychological.
Mr. Winston.
Yeah, he's being a crybaby. All right. Yeah, I mean, I agree that that was my big feedback to them on proficiency was just psychologically it's better to have a 0 than a negative.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I'm glad they changed that. All right. Sarah Goodcouch asks, what rule tweak from 1E to 2E is the chef's kiss change for you all? Like the elegance of it just lights up your brain with appreciation.
3-action economy.
I'm going to say the new spell list, that druid spells aren't just like a weird conglomeration of other stuff, that they have their own list now. I think it's super cool that there's a whole new occult school.
That is cool.
And that bards also are not just a weird random list of arcane spells. They have their own list now. I think that's awesome.
I like how they changed animal companions. I like that I don't have to learn tricks. I don't have to argue with my GM over whether or not I think a thing falls into the trick or the not trick, or if I have it or if I don't have it. And they get cool support abilities. So I'm happy to use one of my actions to give them too, because they're actually useful in a way that's not bogging down what I'm trying to do here.
Mine's the 3-action economy. That's been my favorite thing.
It's glorious.
It's so wonderful.
It's so good, but you already said it, so I tried to think of a different one. All right, next question. We're rolling along. Eric from Norse Foundry says, what's your least favorite rule? I know Heather's.
Shields. I hate the way shields work in 2nd edition. They should always add to your AC, and if you use the action to raise them, that's when you can use it to block the hit and the hit points. You know what I mean? But the fact that you have to spend an action to raise your shield for it to even add to your AC is ridiculous. And I'm going to stop talking because otherwise we're going to be here for an hour.
I think the only reason this one is not a hill I'll die on is because I can't remember the last time I played a character with a shield.
I actually kind of like it because it gives me something to do with my last action when I'm like, I don't know, shield.
That is going to be the freaking hill I die on for 2nd edition. 10 years from now, I'm still going to be like, the shield rule is stupid.
Heather is never going to use a shield. Now, the shield spell, good.
Yeah.
One action spell to give yourself a shield that floats around, yes. Mine is, I don't like how detect magic, read, or identify work. I think it's stupid. I don't want to spend a million years waiting around for the wizard to take a minute or 10 minutes per item to look at it when I just want to know if I can use it or not. Is it good? Cool. Let me put it on my face or whatever.
This is how you end up with cursed items.
That was my own fault for not making that check. But we didn't have to wait 10 minutes for me to do that and then still put on a cursed item.
Fair. I don't know. I don't. That was actually kind of one of mine. I don't love the way detect magic works in the new one. I don't think I played enough to really get a least favorite one yet.
I played 3 different spellcasters. I never take detect magic. I take read aura and then I just guess. I'm like, this is probably magical, read aura. This is probably magical, read aura. That's probably magical, read aura. And that's what I take. Because what's the point in taking detect magic? It tells you if there's something. It's like playing hot and cold.
All right. Okay, these are the hills we're dying on.
We got hills, man. We got hills. All right. I'm going to grab out of the chat since it's about to go away. Where did it go? It did go away. Eric from Norse Foundry asks, what's the weakest class in the core rulebook in your opinion, and why is your answer the alchemist?
It sounded that was what popped in my head.
It's the I don't like.
Yeah.
No, I think the alchemist is good if you're good at playing an alchemist,
Rick.
but it's too freaking fiddly. Like I don't like.
You need somebody who is kind of good at bending the rules because they know them so well. Rick.
Well, and I've seen some alchemists be played, and they're okay. But like, if I'm picking my go team, I'm not picking an alchemist.
Yeah, not usually.
I haven't seen the monk in play, but the monk looks cool, so I don't think that they're the weakest.
So okay,
everybody agree with alchemist, or
probably?
Yeah, we'll just go with alchemist.
We all are kind of lukewarm on alchemist, regardless. So like, that was an easy question, I guess.
Yeah.
All right, Heidi from Karamaga. She lives downstairs from the troll.
Yes, she does.
What's one change, rule, or narrative that really surprised you when you first encountered it?
I'm gonna stick with what we already wrote down.
Yeah. The tyrant.
Yeah.
Tyrant's back.
Heck?
Last wall's gone.
What the heck?
That was
what happened,
man. That was a shocker.
Like the tyrant being back, cool, but like all of Last Wall's gone, lame. What the hell?
Yeah.
I'm gonna say what the 9 hells. That one won't get a sword. All right. Donut Dog asks. Donut Dog.
Is it dog or
it's supposed to be dog? I think I did a bad job of typing.
You typed it wrong.
Jess can't type.
How do you recommend new players learn the rules? Is there a best way?
Honestly, playing the game. I know that's like the lame go-to answer, but I mean, there's a beginner's box coming out soon. That's probably going to be really helpful. But the best way to learn how to play pretty much any pen and paper RPG, in my experience, is to kind of peruse the book, and just sit down and play. Mm-hmm. You don't have to be perfect out of the gate.
Yeah, I think what helped our group, sans Heather, because she was already playing before this, but that Rick paired us in a group, or put us in a group with an already experienced player, which was Ross. And so Ross kind of helped guide us as we were playing. We didn't know what exactly we should do, and he was very good at kind of helping us do this and do that. And Rick would also, when we first started playing, would offer like different pathways we could take. Be like, well, with your turn, you could do this, this, or this. Or if you guys want to explore this, you can do this, this, or this. And at first, it was really nice to have kind of not getting the paradox of choice going.
So here's what I would do. And it is not just a plug for our Discord, which is amazing. The link is on our website. I would go to the Find the Path Discord. I would join the Find the Path Discord Path Lodge, because we do have a Path Lodge on there. I would sign up for a quest or maybe a scenario if you feel like something longer. A lot of it is play by post. The beauty of learning in play by post is that you have as much time as you need to look up a rule. So you can literally make a character. Everybody there is super friendly and helpful. You can ask the folk for all the help. And then you can learn to play in a thing where you're expected to post like once a day. So you can actually I'm a wizard. I don't know what this does. You don't have to feel on the spot having to look up a rule real fast. You can look it up in your own time and then type out what you want to do. Bam.
That's actually a valid strategy.
Yeah. So I think about that.
So go to the Discord.
Yeah. Go to the Discord. Also, I like to plug the Discord because it's great.
It's because you're on it a lot.
I live on there. I'm on there a lot. All right. Ben from the Discord says, also, only people in the Discord gave us questions in advance. Nobody on Twitter did. That was weird. Is there a mechanic from 1E that you miss or wish had made it to 2E?
Freaking 5 foot steps being a free action instead of being a step or a move. I miss that so much. God. Anyway.
I miss attack of opportunities being a thing that everyone had and not an extra, like a special reaction.
I don't mind that one. I miss, and I learned it the hard way recently, I miss being able to retain a touch spell if you miss. Because I've used my shocking grasp that does a d12 of damage or whatever, but I missed on my touch attack. I miss when I could be like, I'm just going to retain that. I'll try again next round.
Yeah. Okay, Hollis.
Oh, yeah, you got real Southern there,
You know
Jess.
what? It's getting late. Hollis is Jessica late. That's how that is.
The later it gets, the more twang that comes out because we're Texan.
It's true. It's a thing. Sorry.
It just happens.
Sorry, y'all. It's real late here.
Every once in a while, I'll
down.
say a word, and I'm like, "Oh my god, I just sounded so Southern."
Yeah, my Midwestern parents were horrified the first time I said 5.
5. All right. So, any questions from our live studio audience? That's not a studio audience, but is live probably. They might be
we got through that in like an hour and a half. That's not too bad. It's a huge book.
It's gigantic.
So,
it is gigantic.
Any other questions? Because I feel like we got through all these questions, which is cool.
Yes.
But I don't know. Let me scroll up and see if I missed any. I might have missed some.
I thought Jordan was supposed to be helping us with that.
No, they're in there. Ross is in there too.
Yeah.
All
Yay.
right.
I think Rick's in there too, isn't he?
A lot of questions about things that they're not asking us. They're talking to the boys. I see how it is.
Rude. Probably like
no.
GM questions. They're the
Probably.
GMs.
I'm a GM.
That's true. You're kind of a recent GM, and you've done really well. Of course, you did GM for
children.
me and no, even before that.
For you and Angie one
for
time.
me and my friend Angie, like way back in the day.
True. All right. Well, if there's nothing else, then
I hope you enjoyed our discussion and sometimes off-topic rants about the core rulebook.
It's true. We this will be on YouTube probably next couple of days, and it'll be on our Find the Path Ventures feed in about a week, probably
and
next Thursday.
If you have any thoughts about any of the things we said, you can always go to our Reddit or in the Discord and or Twitter and add us, and we'll answer your questions.
Ooh, we did get one more question. I'm gonna throw it in here.
Okay.
Is there a second edition adventure path you'd like to play?
All of them.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean,
coming up, gosh,
all of them. Yeah.
All of them. Yeah.
I actually really want to play. What is it? The first one, something of Ashes.
Age of Ashes.
Age of Ashes. Yeah.
I actually think that one sounds really cool. So I really would want to do that one. And Agents of Edgewatch sounds pretty cool.
Yeah.
So
it has a weird loot system. Not for this show, but it's got a weird loot system that it's weird.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, always all of them, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So anyway, yeah, if you come hang out with us on Discord, come subscribe to our Patreon if you want more cool content. That's on there.
And if you like I said, if you have questions about this or commentary, or want to argue with me about shields, you can come to the Reddit or add us on Twitter, or even post in the Discord. We check it out.
Yep. It's true, we're around. Anyway, I guess until next time, good luck.
Y'all have a great night. Bye.
Oh, good luck.